Hey, it's me, Tany Blue FF. Here you're gonna get all the complete episodes from my previous channel. Wine was here now, regretting all her life decisions after marrying her boyfriend Kim Tae-ying. He turned out to be a mafia king. He was ruthless and cold towards everyone, including Wine too. And on their first night, he told her that he married her for revenge. Otherwise, he would never look upon a chubby girl like Wine. Yes, Wine was chubby, cute though, and told her that he hated her and was embarrassed of her because she was chubby and not slim like other girls. It's been 2 days of our marriage. He never fails to make her cry, while Ryan always loved him. Now they were both in the living room. Dane was sitting on the couch with some paper in his hands. Ryan was about to sit. Did I ask you to sit? His cold and firm tone made Ryan flinch as she stood up and mumbled a soft sorry. He scoffed and said, "Oh no, my queen, you'd be tired of eating all day. Please have a seat," he said, being sarcastic. Ryan shook her head in denial as tears welled up in her eyes. "I said sit." Wine flinched and sat beside him, but far from him. Just then he spoke. "These are some contract papers. Sign them faster." "What did I... Are you allowed to ask?" His firm and cold tone made her flinch as she shook her head with tears in her eyes. Taeyong tossed the paper towards her as she grabbed it. These are Her lips wobbled as tears were ready to fall from her eyes. "I know this paper says that whatever property you're gonna get from your so-called family will be mine." But why? Why do you think I married a chubby girl like you? There are more and more girls better than you. So dumb of you. Think yourself. Why would I marry a girl like you? You should come out of your dream world." He said those words simply, but this word shattered Ryan's world as tears which she was controlling began to flow down her rosy cheeks. This reaction of hers was enough for him to regret those words which came out from his mouth, but still he shouted, "Come here." She flinched and stood up and slowly went towards him, while he sat on his same position, while manspreading. When she reached him, he harshly grabbed her both soft hands and made her kneel on the ground between his legs, while her tears still flowed like a river. Surely a mark was left on her soft hands. "Suck me," he commanded, squeezing her hands harder. She shook her head, crying harder. He was forcing her and it was hurting him too. He knew he couldn't do whatever he was doing. Tears filled his eyes as he harshly pushed Wine, making her fall on the floor, and went towards their shared bedroom while Wine stood up from the ground and sat on the couch while crying. Soon she was tired and slept there on the couch while shivering. "I cannot. How can I do that to my love?" He held tears in his eyes. He changed his dress and walked downstairs. He saw his wife sleeping there. His eyes softened at his love, but all he could do was stare at her. Realization hit him. His eyes turned red in anger. He controlled himself and went towards her and picked her in his arms and took her to the shared bedroom and laid her on the bed and laid beside her and slept, hugging her. It was morning. A bucket of water was splashed on Wine's face as she woke up and sat on the bed, gasping for air. She started coughing hard. Soon she had a control of herself and looked out to see Taeyong. "Is this your father's home? Go and cook. My cousin is coming." Wine nodded without objecting him and stood taking her clothes. She ran to the bathroom. He somehow smiled at the obedience of his wife. He went downstairs. Soon he saw his wife running to the kitchen. She was wearing a knee-length white pink floral print frock. Oh, how his heart melted, but he controlled himself and was about to follow her, but the doorbell rang. The maid opened the door as a beautiful slim girl entered and went to him. "Just do your work and take the money," he said in his cold voice. While the girl nodded, he sat on the couch. When he heard Wine's footstep towards the living room, he immediately sat on the couch while the other girl named Lara sat on his lap. He just wrapped his hands around her waist, pulling her closer. Wine entered the living room. The breakfast. She stopped speaking when her eyes fell on him and the girl on his lap. Her eyes filled with tears. She was too insecure of herself. He pretended to not hear what she said and smirked and said, "Oh dear wifey, what were you saying? The breakfast will be ready in some time. Please wait." She spoke as her lips wobbled and eyes shined with tears in them. "Ew, this fatty is your wife? She doesn't even deserve to be your side chick. Ew, just look at her." Wine just looked down as tears rolled down on Rose's cheek. She hated herself for being like this. She hated herself the most. Her tears clenched his heart. I'll prepare the breakfast. Please wait for some time, she said and went to the kitchen. Tane decided to keep calm now as he already decided to give this Lara Beige a ruthless that he pushed her up. She landed on the floor and she looked up to see his angry eyes. She kept quiet. He stood up and went to the kitchen following his wife. Wine was making breakfast for Taeyong and Lara as she had lost her appetite because Lara insulted Wine, and after Taeyong entered the kitchen and saw her cooking in silence, she didn't notice him. So, how's my new girlfriend? She flinched and turned and saw that it was Taeyong. She didn't say anything and continued to make breakfast. He leaned on the kitchen counter staring at her. Do you even know how good she is in bed? Her hand stopped hearing his words while he smirked as tears gathered in her eyes. How do you know? You have the courage to ask me? His cold and firm tone made her flinch as she shook her head. But let me tell you, is one steamy hot night not enough to know how much a person is good in bed? She didn't say anything but tried to control herself from breaking down. And look at you. Leave it. Just know that she doesn't mean enough. Just look at her figure. Oh my god, she's so good in bed. The breakfast is ready. She spoke as her lips wobbled. She served both of them and left from the kitchen and went to their shared bedroom. She stood in front of the mirror and looking at herself, she spoke, do I deserve to live? I'm good for nothing. She spoke as she broke down in tears. I hate this chubby and fat body of mine. I should die. I don't deserve to live. My mom was right. I'm too ugly for anyone to love. She told me that everyone hated me but foolish me. She always kept questioning my existence. Was I a mistake just like Aunt told? She always told my husband would get bored of me. She was right. I'm of no use. He already got a new girl. Looking at her, I felt so insecure. She was right. I don't deserve to become his wife. I hate myself. I should die. She loses the control over her legs and falls down crying out silently, trying not to disturb her husband and his new girlfriend. Little did she knew that her husband had already heard her. Whatever she spoke, he couldn't do anything. He was helpless. He felt so guilty to make his angel-like wife cry. It's just been 2 days of our marriage and look at her state. Wine stopped after pouring her heart out. She wiped her tears and stood up. He saw this and entered the room. Moon, he called her out. She turned and saw him sitting on the bed. Yes, come here, he commanded. She followed. She reached near him. He grabbed her wrist and made her sit on his lap. She gasped at his action. He pulled her much closer. Both of their noses were touching. It would be a lie if they say they didn't felt butterflies. Is my moon crying? He whispered in his soft voice while she shook her head. His hands reached her scalp and mustache. He surely loved her long, thick, shiny, silky, smooth, wavy hairs. Removing his hand from her scalp, he raised his hand to ruffle his hair, but Vian tightly closed her eyes, thinking he will slap her, and a tear fell from her eye. Meanwhile, his heart broke at her reaction. I am sorry. He hugged her, caressing her hair. Laying on the bed, he took her in his arms. I wasn't about to slap you, my moon. Vian cried hard and not listening his words. Taeyong embraced her in his arms. I would never do such a thing ever in my life, my moon. He comforted her. He regretted that he made her so scared of him, but being helpless, he couldn't do anything. Leave me. Wayne said while trying not to break down. He didn't say anything and left her. You had your breakfast? Taeyong couldn't help but chuckle at her naive behavior. He hurted her too much. He shook his head and making Wayne guess why you didn't eat yesterday also. I didn't feel like having breakfast soon. Wait, I'll bring it here. He nodded as she went to the kitchen, leaving him in the bedroom. After 10 minutes, she came back with the food tray and settled it on the bed in front of him while he was just watching her actions. She arranged everything. Have it. Feed me. He commanded in his cold and stern voice while Vian's face turned red, but eventually she gave in and took a piece of bread in her hand and was about to feed him, but suddenly he caught her hand while she tensed up. How did this happen? "What? Don't fucking lie to me," he growled while she flinched. Her right hand was burned near the wrist. The area was all red. He took her left hand, and the condition was same. "Your girlfriend did this," she spoke, being scared while he squeezed her hands more harder, making her tears fall. He smirked and said, "You deserve it. Now stop this nonsense. You aren't a kid always crying. Whatever, now feed me." One stopped crying and wiped her tears with her left hand, but it was hurting so bad she began feeding Taeyong again. Her hands were all swelled up. When she finished it, she picked up the tray as it touched the burnt edge. He hissed lightly in pain while he scooped, "Don't do this fucking drama in front of me." Wine didn't say anything but just looked down and walked to the kitchen while he followed her. She kept the used utensils and plates in the sink and wore gloves and began washing them. Tim just stared at her from far and went to the living room. When Lara was there, he brought her into the kitchen. He pinned her to the kitchen counter while Wine didn't notice him until Lara moaned, "Ah, Daddy." Wine got startled by the sudden noise. Watching her reaction, Taeyong wanted to laugh out loud, but he didn't did it. As baby girl, Wine saw how his hands were on his waist, keeping her close to him, how she would moan when he would touch her. "Daddy, please, let's break the back like we did last time. But today it will be a kitchen counter. Your figure is so good." Wine's breath hitched, hearing them once her shattered into pieces, so he was cheating on her all the time. She just turned her back and completed her work and left, knowing she couldn't tolerate her husband with another girl. As soon as Wine went, he pushed Lara off him and sanitized himself. "Who gave you the right to hurt my wife?" Lara shivered, hearing his cold and angry tone. "It was her. You know what a slut your wife is." I recognized her by looking at her. Before she could speak, a guard entered the kitchen while Taeyong smirked. "Do whatever you guards want with this slut. She's all yours." Lad tried to scream, but the guard smirked and carried her with him. "I don't know how long will this game go. I want to embrace my moon and shower her with all my love." He sighed in defeat and went to the terrace, knowing she'll be there. Who knows her better than him, her husband Kim Taeyong. She was there sitting on the couch while blaming herself and crying, "Just look at me. Why would he like me when he got himself a girl so beautiful? And look at me. I'm so ugly and so fat. I don't want to live but only for him. I'm still here. I love him. That girl was right. I don't even deserve to be a side chick. Why would he even keep an ugly and fat chick? I deserve whatever is happening with me, and it hurts." She hissed as her burnt hand accidentally hit the couch. Soon her small hands were stuffed in big hands. It was none other than Taeyong. She flinched by the sudden gesture. Taeyong just opened the first aid kit and treated her wound while she just suppressed herself from crying as it was burned too. He was done. He was about to speak, but his phone, he picked it up and went a little far, not knowing Wine could also hear his talks. But at one sentence broke her heart and scared her. He spoke very coldly on the phone. "Sylvan, okay, sure, I'll look upon this." Hey, now let's meet in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do comment and say how is it. Kabutar, kabutar ke piche dil.